We'll wait a few moments for folks to join. Hi, everyone. I'm seeing folks join on the attendee side. Welcome. If you're joining us and you would be able to access the chat, go ahead in the chat, introduce yourself, let us know where you're joining us from, and we'll just wait a few more moments for more people to join. Hi, Holly. Thanks for being here. Perfect. Hi, Jen. All right, we'll wait just another moment and see if we have anybody else join us. Otherwise, they'll be able to pick up where we are. Okay. All right, what do we think? We're ready to go? I know I only have a few people that I can get that head nod from. Oh, okay. All right, well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're so happy to have you here. My name is Chelsea Hockler and I'm on the product specialist team here at Amplify. I'm joined here with Maureen Warman and David Larson, both from the DDS side. I will be presenting today's webinar, and at the same time, David and Maureen will be answering questions and sharing links in the chat. We are also very excited to have Jennifer Lott join us today from Bullhead City School District to share about their experience transitioning from DDS to mCLASS. Here's our agenda today. It's going to include a quick tour of mCLASS with DIBELS 8th edition. I'll take you through who we are, what's the same and different when using DDS or mCLASS. We'll hear from Jennifer Lott and their journey, and then we'll take a look at what is mCLASS. We'll see live how teachers use these classroom reports in instruction, as well as the supports and reports for parents and caregivers, and how leaders use aggregate reports. We'll open up the conversation at the end for questions, but if you have questions throughout, feel free to ask them either in the chat or the Q&A. So we'd love for you to introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know that you're here. We'll say hi. But we also have that Q&A button that you can click and send a question in that forum so that we can ensure that your questions get answered. And special thanks to David and Maureen for helping out with that chat today. And then one more thing, if you choose, you can turn on the closed captions. They are enabled, so you can follow along that way if you would like to. You just click that button from the Zoom toolbar. So let's get started with a little background about Amplify. Amplify has been focused on literacy and math assessment since the early 2000s, in which we have been the sole provider of mobile DIBELS. You may even remember using DIBELS 6 on Palm Pilots years ago. And then now fast forward to today, we support that DIBELS 8th edition on a variety of devices. So the heart of mCLASS is the DIBELS 8th assessment, which is authored by the University of Oregon. It is rooted in the most up-to-date research and reading and assessment. Compared to prior versions, there is much better skill coverage. It collects much more data on both the most struggling readers as well as the most proficient readers, assessing their foundational literacy skills, and that's going to yield more diagnostic data that the mCLASS system is able to analyze and then turn into grouping and lesson recommendations. The other big thing about the DIBELS 8th edition is that is one of the very few assessments on the market that has been specifically validated for dyslexia screening. So Just a little like side note here, transitioning to mCLASS with the Dibbles 8th edition is a little bit like getting a new smartphone. The first day, it is a bit of an adjustment. And then before you know it, it's like you have been using it all your life. You are going to see a lot of enhancements and new elements like on a smartphone that you never knew you could live without. And at the same time, it still feels very familiar to what you're used to, because you will see the same 1-minute assessment measures that you are used to giving in that paper pencil version. But in this case, if you happen to be on this webinar and you are new to that 8th edition, here are a couple highlights. So the Dibbles 8th edition is, it has a robust skill progression in this version. Nonsense word fluency is now expanded into grade 3. A brand new measure of word reading fluency assesses students' knowledge of irregular and regular words out of context. Oral reading fluency is now 1 passage, and maze, which is our measure of basic comprehension, can be done online to save time, and of course paper, right? And it's 3 minutes long. You also have the option to administer maze paper pencil. That's still supported in mCLASS for students where online assessment is not necessarily the best modality for them. So let's take a look at the Dibbles data system side by side with mCLASS. I'm gonna have David or Maureen, maybe we can share that link in the chat. But you don't have to click on it, or you can click on it and save it and put it off on a different screen. I'll show it live on my webinar screen right here. But we're going to look side by side. So when we think about Dibbles data system, your DDS, it takes those Dibbles 8th edition assessments that we were just discussing and involves teachers in assessing using paper pencil, which means they are gathering their materials, they are manually scoring along with students. They're manually calculating their scores and then also manually entering the data. So additionally, when you're starting out, schools have to manually enroll their students as well. But when we think about mCLASS, mCLASS is digitally assessed and scored. All of the scoring is done automatically, so no additional data entry, and then enrollment can be streamlined because it's available through third-party enrollment platforms such as Clever, ClassLink, among others. So I'm going to show you this website here where we have the breakdown side by side. When we're looking, you can see the Dibbles data system, and then our basic version, and then mCLASS with Dibbles 8th edition, our gold. And we'll go side by side here. You can see the assessment type is paper pencil with manual data entry, and then in mCLASS, it is digital device with no manual data entry. Your scoring is manual for your DDS and automatic for mCLASS. And then I'll let you explore this here and just highlight a few more key pieces. Your progress monitoring in DDS is teacher driven. They have to select their measures to progress monitor and choose when. And in mCLASS, you'll see that there's automatic recommendations. There's also dyslexia screening available in both, and some additional add-on measures we'll speak about in just a moment. Instructional activities, those are not in DDS, but I will show you where they are in mCLASS when we get in there. Grouping recommendations in DDS from that whole composite score level, but in mCLASS down to the item level analysis. And I'll show you what I mean by that in just a moment. Keep on going down. You'll notice that we have reporting available in both, but in mCLASS, a much larger list of reports, and we'll check those out live in a few moments. Transition back over here. All right. So now that you've seen that side-by-side comparison, you have the link so you can go back and reference and compare what's similar, what's different. The main takeaway there is that everything's done automatically in mCLASS. So now that you've seen that, I'm going to invite Jennifer Lott, who is here from Bullhead City School District. We are so grateful to have you to share about your experience. For example, what made you first want to transition to mCLASS, what that transition was like, and then now what are teachers and leaders saying about mCLASS now that you're in it and you've been using it? So hi, welcome, thanks for being here.
Thank you, I'm happy to be here. We love mCLASS. So when we first started, we had been doing, of course, the paper and pencil version for years. We went away from the actual Dibbles inputting and created our own spreadsheets and things. So, I mean, it was time consuming. So the time and the expense that we paid to have to print the materials, do your own scoring, and then inputting on your own, all your data into some system. And then of course there's the errors and everything that can happen when you're self-scoring. The other reason for our transition is that Arizona said we had to have a dyslexia screener. And so we were looking for that. And then we had been using the Amplify CKLA materials for about a year. And we just kind of wanted to be able to provide all the bells and whistles and everything to kind of go together and make life easier for our teachers. And so that's another reason we decided to transition into the mCLASS. So our transition was a little rough. A lot of it had to do with timing. So the first year we started with mCLASS was during the fall when everything was closed down due to COVID. So not only were we trying to learn the new system, but we were trying to figure out how to administer the test since we didn't have students in front of us. So we had a few hurdles. Our Title I staff tends to be, so in our district, our Title I staff administers all the benchmarks. So we have 5 paras at all of our elementary schools that do the benchmarks for the teachers. And most of our Title I staff is older. They tend to be retired people who still just kind of want to make a difference in the community. And so we had to train them, and a lot of them are not real literate on computers. And then we had some issues with ordering supplies at that time because of course everyone was ordering computers due to virtual learning, but we made it work. So after we figured out how to administer the test virtually and kind of do some adjustments due to, you know, internet connections and quiet kindergarten voices and things, we started to really see the value. And then again, change is hard with anything you do. So I don't think this was any different. It probably would have been a little easier had we not started when we did, but we're really glad we did. So now we absolutely love it. So it's so much easier. It's so less time consuming. So you can pull students in, you do everything right on your tablet. We use both touchscreen Chromebooks, and then we also have iPads that we use, but you get instant results. The teachers can see, you can pull results, have them sorted in multiple different ways depending on grade levels down to the student level. You can do classrooms. I can, as a district person, look at schools and compare it to district assessment or district results. So the reports are amazing. And like I said, they're instant. So you don't have to worry about inputting anything into it anywhere. It's just right there for you. And then there's some reports in there that, you know, show you maybe at the beginning of the year, you had 50 kids in red, and then it'll show you where are those 50 kids now in the middle of the year. So it just, the reports are just amazing to see your growth and where you need to concentrate more of your instructional time. For progress monitoring, we can also check to see, you know, how the students are doing. We can see how much progress monitoring we have left to do, or, you know, how consistent we've been with monitoring our students. There's also wonderful things in there for parents. So at conference time, it's great to pull those parent reports, and it's in parent-friendly language, so they're not having to deal with all the education acronyms or anything. So those have been very helpful when working with parents. And then once again, that dyslexia screener is really great too. It's just automatic. So it'll give you a little indicator to let you know if you kind of need to keep that student on your radar. And then for many students, as you go through the year, if they were identified, they no longer are as they learn some of those skills, but it's a great thing to have in the system you're already using anyway. So the results really, and the easy, like quick, instant results really have helped us in grouping our students and knowing how to support them in their growth. And like I said, it's such a time efficient way to get the testing done. So we love it. And we're really happy that we made the switch.
Oh, I'm so glad. And seriously, thank you so much for sharing, and everything that you said. It was almost like a preview of what's to come for the rest of this webinar. So you're really setting me up for success here. And now I can kind of highlight some of those pieces that you shared that are valuable in a real life school setting. So thank you for your
You're welcome.
time. You are welcome to stay but if you need to go, I understand too.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So now let's dive into mCLASS. What everything Jennifer shared was so relevant to everything that I'm about to share with you now. So she was able to preview all of the highlights and the features. So districts have been coming to us for many years, despite all the different options that they have in front of them, because mCLASS is that single tool. Instead of cobbling together different assessment solutions, dyslexia screening, instructional solutions, mCLASS is the platform that includes all of that, the universal screening, the progress monitoring, dyslexia screening, and in addition, teachers get classroom reporting, instant grouping, and instruction activities that they can use immediately. And then while coaches and principals and district leads, like you just heard, have a full reporting suite. So all on one platform. Dibbles in general, just like you're familiar with previous editions or the paper pencil experience, is teacher administered. And that's what makes this so great, is because it is still teacher administered. However, it's just digitally scored. So picture for yourself, like in the image you see on the screen here, a teacher and a first grade student sitting one-on-one. Your students love that one-on-one FaceTime, of course. And the reason why teachers still like to do this, even despite alternatives, is the fact that they hear how their students are reading aloud. They see how they are hear how they are segmenting, and more importantly, how they're producing sounds. We're not just testing those receptive skills. Not only do you know if the student is pronouncing their sounds correctly, you are there with the student, and you can use your knowledge of the student to determine if they are making a mistake or if perhaps it's just due to the student's language variation. So now you're going to keep assessing quickly, just like you would in the paper pencil, but you get that instant, holistic, intuitive feel. From the student standpoint, it's very gentle for them. The teacher administered assessments save an enormous amount of time. So about 6 to 7 minutes per child, and even less in the older grades. It really helps prevent that assessment fatigue. And then teachers, they love the fact that they see intuitively what's going on. So by the time they go and see the reports in mCLASS Home, they can digest that data very rapidly because they saw what happened. They were there for the assessment and they know that data, they collected it, they can trust it. The digital scoring means no muss, no fuss, nothing to organize. Like Jennifer mentioned, everything's right there. It saves a huge amount of time. Everything's calculated automatically, and then students are grouped in their classroom using their data that was just collected, and then teachers are provided with instructional activities. So now you may be wondering, what does this actually look like in action? So the teacher has a device, typically a touch screen, but it does work with a laptop and a mouse as well. And we can drop in the customer requirements in the chat, and we can also send it at the end if you need it. And the student has a printed page of assessment materials in front of them. So the students still read from a paper copy. The teachers are just scoring on a device. In this particular screenshot, you see the teacher has an iPad, and you see the printed material examples for nonsense word fluency and oral reading fluency. You are able to purchase kits from Amplify, so it keeps those papers even neater, or you can just download the paper assessment forms from our website. So let's watch a video of this in action. We are going to join Karen, who is our teacher assessor, and Lee at the beginning of the year in first grade. It's going to be our phonemic segmentation fluency assessment. So Lee will have no paper in front of him. You'll see it's an auditory task where Karen will present a word and Lee will be asked to identify the sounds that he hears in that word. I will pause it throughout, and my Amplify folks on the call, if there's any sound issues, please let me know. But I'll pause it throughout and highlight some of the key features as we're watching. You'll see in the bottom left-hand corner of our screen an inlay. That is going to show you exactly what Karen sees on her device. So you can see what the teacher sees and watch her score along with him.
The sounds in the word am are Your turn. Tell me the sounds in the word am. Tell me any sounds you hear. Ah.
So what you'll notice right away is that Karen is being guided for fidelity using this little Mr. Say, the Pac-Man looking icon will tell teachers exactly what they need to say. There's the directions, the practice items, so the student is familiar with the ask. And you'll also see the student's name, the time of year, the grade, and the assessment that is being given.
Okay, here is your first word. 4. Here.
So just like if you were to score this using paper pencil, you have those lines, but instead of drawing a line with a pencil, all you have to do is tap in the box to indicate that that sound segment was produced. And in Lee's case here, that second sound was produced incorrectly. So Karen simply taps on the phoneme to mark it as incorrect. So a sound segment produced, but it was produced incorrectly. If Lee happened to self-correct that response, all she would need to do is tap it again. It would color code that phoneme green. So that way we can indicate it is a self-correction.
Ask. Ask. First.
What you'll notice here is there is a timer going up. So a 1-minute timed assessment is and that timer is automatically built into the platform. And when there's 5 seconds left, it's going to color code yellow. That just alerts teachers that we're coming to the end of the assessment. And you can think, especially in that paper pencil version, where you had to fumble between a stopwatch and watching and scoring and observing and then keeping track of the time. You don't have to worry about that in the platform because it's already done for you. Your timer is there, and then when the time is up, the screen is going to prompt done, and the student and the teacher will click done, and we'll see what it'll look like on her screen in just a minute.
Bring. Stop.
When he clicks done, of course, he wants to see how we
Good job.
students do. And Karen, from her device now, will see this screen, and the score will be automatically calculated for the teacher. So instantly she clicks done, and now this is what she'll see. A score of 23, well below benchmark for beginning of the year first grade, color coded in red. You'll notice she has already given letter naming fluency. That score is there as well, also color coded in green, considered at benchmark. Karen will need to continue giving the rest of the assessments for the beginning of the year for this student, and then a composite score will automatically be color coded and calculated right on that screen from the device that she's looking at. All right. We just observed a benchmark assessment. That will remain the same, what you're used to, 3 times a year, all your students. It's where we have progress monitoring, where we have a huge time saving factor here. It's still the same principle as your normal progress monitoring. You check in every 2 to 4 weeks with students who have below or well below proficiency scores, but it's only 1 to 2 minutes per student because you only need to do 1, maybe 2 measures depending on the focus of your intervention. A highlight in mCLASS though, is that mCLASS is going to recommend the measures to progress monitor. So it will take all that benchmarking data and say, all right, here is a recommended measure. So all we have to do is click on that student's name from that same device screen, and you will see that recommended measure in a blue banner there. But teachers have the flexibility and the ability to choose any progress monitoring measures. So they can override that recommendation, select any measure or measures, more than one, including off-grade level measures. And in addition to progress monitoring on the platform, we have additional assessments that can be given as well. So in some states, additional measures are required to fulfill legislation surrounding dyslexia screening. Amplify has provided 4. They're actually free additional assessment measures for students in grades K through 3 to help fulfill those requirements. So depending on the state that you're in, you may have different needs for different assessments. We have mCLASS spelling, vocabulary, oral language, as well as rapid automatized naming or RAN. And districts have the flexibility to add these measures to their mCLASS AA programming to capture additional student data. So what they feel would be relevant, or as Jennifer so kindly mentioned for me in advance, you may need that for an additional dyslexia screener. I'll show you that in just a moment when we get into the classroom reports. So we are going to go live now from joining a demo class. So a first grade class at the beginning of the year, when teachers click sync from the device that they've assessed, all of the data that they have collected will be instantly available in mCLASS Home. That's our reporting side of our platform. We call it mCLASS Home. You'll notice the plum banner going across the top. This is what we'll cover right now: the benchmarking information, progress, instruction, Home Connect, and then dual language. If you happen to have mCLASS and mCLASS Lectura, that's where you would go to see a side-by-side report of your English report assessment results and your Spanish results. So right now we are just joining a first grade class at the beginning of the year. And this gives us class summary report, a quick snapshot. It gives your teachers an overview of your students' scores. So we see right away that we have 15 students that were assessed in the beginning of the year. Of those 15 students, 6 students are well below the benchmark in terms of their composite score, their overall reading proficiency. 67% are below or well below the benchmark. We do have 3 students at benchmark and 2 above. These mCLASS or these DIBELS composite scores are predictive. So what they're telling us is that with core support alone, these 3 students that are at benchmark have an 80% chance of meeting grade level expectations at the end of the year. Above benchmark, 90%. Whereas the students that have scores that are most at risk, the intensive area, they have a 20% chance with core instruction alone to meet end of the year expectations. And of course, the students in yellow, they need strategic intervention because they can go either way, a 20 to 80% chance for those students. But the teachers when they log in, they can get that view of their composite scores, but also you can look at the actual early literacy skills that were assessed by the DIBELS assessment measures. So in this case, when you look at letter sounds, we can see this is a hot spot in this class. 10 of her students are below or well below benchmark in their letter sound knowledge that was assessed by nonsense word fluency. So you see this right away. A good overview snapshot. They can take this information and say, hey, I may want to work more in my core, or you can drill down to the small group level, and I'll show you that in a moment. When you scroll down from the same screen that I'm on right now, this is where we put the names to those numbers that you just saw above. Everything on this report is sortable and clickable. So we can sort by name or composite score. And when I click on that, now I can see the 6 students who had well below benchmark composite scores, or my students that are most at risk and need that intensive level of support. Also, you'll notice some discontinued hash marks here. Your DIBELS 8th edition paper pencil version does have these gated measures where students do not have to go on to their more advanced sub skills if they are scoring a 0 in certain earlier, more foundational skills. Sometimes that's hard to remember, but in the mCLASS platform, it's automatically done for you. If the student has a score of 0 on word reading fluency at the beginning of the year in first grade, the software is going to say, hey, we don't need to go on to oral reading fluency right now. And we're going to say that's discontinued. Teachers, of course, can override these recommendations, but a really nice time-saving piece that helps avoid frustration for students is that it's built in, so you don't have to go on. It works in the reverse, starting at the middle of the year in first grade and up, where you'll start with the more advanced skills, and if the students are above benchmark, then they don't necessarily have to go back and take those more foundational level sub skills. Again, it's all built into the platform, so it makes it really nice and easy to remember. But what I said before was that everything from this screen is clickable. So if we want to look at Emmy right here, and we can see she's struggling, she's at risk, you can click on her score and pull up the transcript of that assessment that she just took. So this is a phonemic segmentation fluency transcript. You'll see that she had a score of 6 segments produced in that minute. You'll also be able to see that she was able to produce some beginning sounds. And that's pretty much it. And that's as far as we got in that minute. And teachers can use that data to drive their instruction down to that individual item level. Let's click off of here, or you can print it from this screen as well. But we can also click on the student's name and pull up their benchmark history. So this will give you an individual snapshot of your students. So in this student, for example, Emmy again, you'll notice that we have her beginning of the year and middle of the year scores. So you'll see in the beginning that she started well below the benchmark, and now at the middle of the year has progressed to below the benchmark. So from red to yellow, and everything on this report is clickable as well. And you can pull up the transcript and now look at her phonemic awareness, where she is segmenting accurately many, many, many more sounds, beginning, middle, and end. And what's neat about this is that this will follow the student from year to year. And if you do have a year's worth of Dibble's 8 paper pencil data, you can go in and upload that year's worth of previous data. So that way your teachers, when they click on their students, will be able to see the previous year's data, and they can get that more precise information about their students, where they're at and where they need to go, without having to wait for months worth of instruction. They've got it right there and they can take off running. Let me go back to the class list here real quick before I move on. There's a couple more features on this report I just want to point out here. You can toggle on a Lexile feature once students have a composite score, percentile toggles for percentiles for each of the measures within your district. And additionally, those 4 additional add-on measures, that they will be reported here. You have the flexibility to turn them on or off. You do not have to give them, but if you do choose to give them, like in this class, for example, the students who had well below benchmark composite scores, they were given all of those 4 additional measures for more precise information about where they are in their reading abilities. And you'll see that students that had that well below benchmark score on spelling or RAN and a well below benchmark composite score had a risk indicator populate. And Jennifer so kindly mentioned that earlier when she said that that little icon pops up. It's a risk indicator. It tells us that this student is at risk for additional reading difficulties, including those associated with dyslexia. So you can use that to drive your instructional choices as well. Just gives you that extra information about your students' reading. And then let's see. We'll go back up here. So now let's go back to Emmy. I'm going to click on Emmy's name again. We're in her benchmark history. I'm actually going to select progress because the benchmark information is great, but really we want to see, once we get that benchmark information, what do we need to do? We need to provide targeted instruction for our students and then track and check in using progress monitoring to see if they're making progress towards the next time of year goal. So in Emmy Brown's case, when we clicked on her phonemic awareness assessment, I'm going to scroll down right here. We can see the graph here. If I don't know, if I need to zoom in, let me know. But here's our phonemic awareness. And you'll notice on the graph that Emmy has been progress monitored in phonemic awareness multiple times. So every couple weeks or so, when we scroll down, you can see each of the data points. But mCLASS recommended that she be progress monitored in phonemic awareness because that was an area of need. But then as she made progress and her trajectory indicated that she was on track to meet that next benchmark, meaning she had data points on top of the aim line, and the mCLASS software analyzed that and said, hey, now we're on track with phonemic awareness. Let's continue to work on it, but let's now switch and focus to letter sounds. So when we look at her letter sounds, now you'll see that we have progress monitoring beginning again in October, where we left off with phonemic awareness. And we're progress monitoring in her letter sounds using nonsense word fluency. And again, making steady progress towards that next time of year goal. You can see down here the results from all of the progress monitoring measures that have been given. Everything from here is clickable as well. So you can see your transcripts of not only your benchmarking, but also your progress monitoring. And if you don't want to look student by student at progress monitoring data, we have a beautiful progress report that allows you to track progress monitoring in between the benchmark time periods. So between beginning of the year and middle of the year and middle of the year and end of the year. And this report will show you what progress monitoring has been given in your classroom. You'll be able to see the beginning of the year score on the measure that you selected to progress monitor, the 3 most recent progress monitoring scores, and then the middle of the year or end of the year benchmark goal. So you know, where am I heading? What's my goal here? And then additionally, mCLASS has the ability to set custom goals for students. So it'll default to get the student as close to benchmark as possible, but teachers have the ability to go into this goal setting tab and select their own goals based on different growth settings. And they'll also be able to use this aim line to tell whether or not the students are on track to meet those goals. And all of that is found here in that progress tab. Additionally, we have a growth outcomes feature where you can track the students' growth from time of year, from middle of the year to end, beginning to end, beginning to middle, all of it. You can see their growth over time and then compare how much growth that student made. So in this case, we've got Samir, and while he was well below the benchmark at beginning and middle of the year, compared to his peers who started the year at a 302 composite score, he made well above average growth. So we can celebrate some of those wins for all of our students, whether they're reading at proficiency already or they are just making some progress to close the gap for them. All of that was here in that progress tab. And those 2 resources alone are incredible, and teachers can use it to drill down and analyze. But the real magic in mCLASS happens in the instruction tab. And the instruction tab will come in, take all of the benchmarking and progress monitoring data and analyze it and group students with like areas of need. So in this particular class, as we scroll down, we have a phonemic awareness group with 2 students in it. We have a group 2 and group 3, which are both decoding groups, but mCLASS has gone in and analyzed it down to the individual item level and said, these 3 students need to work on reading with simpler patterns fluently, and these 5 students need to work on reading more complex patterns. So both working on decoding, but 2 different areas within that decoding header. And then we have some students that are working on grade level in a comprehension group. So these students can read grade level text. What's so neat about this is that you are able to click and see activities that you can use to support that group of students' basic early literacy skill focus. So in this decoding group 2, we can see what they can do. So in this case, they can blend sounds into CBC words as whole words, but not consistently, and then need to work on specific letter sounds and on reading whole words fluently. You have additional information, including language considerations. So more information for teachers to help target their instruction. And then when you scroll down, observed patterns. So observed patterns that the mCLASS software has pulled that those students have in common and where those observed patterns were pulled from. So which assessments. And then a resource bank of activities to support those students. So you can use this information, go back to your core, or you can look at these activities that are designed to target specific skill areas. So for example, I can narrow down my search here to difficulty reading 2-syllable words. And now I've gone from 10 different pages of activities down to 5, and I can click on any of these activities and pull up the lesson. So these are scripted. Anybody can put them into practice, whether that's teachers who have so much on their plate and they don't have time to plan additional small group instruction, they can pull that, or paraprofessionals. If you have volunteers, everything is there for you when you pull up that activity. You can see that there are if there's additional materials needed, they're linked there. And then it follows the I do, we do, you do gradual release of responsibility, in that we are prepping students and then helping them, guide them with these skills, and also a beautiful word bank or resource bank in most of the lessons that allow teachers to just pull the lesson up and put it right into practice. Because the data is great, but then we also need to use sometimes we just need to know, what do we do next? And you can literally go into mCLASS Home, pull up a lesson, and get to work with that group of students. It is all done for you. And then if you happen to be a teacher or a school that is using CKLA, we have the CKLA Connect here that will give you information about that group of students and where you can go back to your core curriculum to provide introduction lessons, review and practice, or reteach and remediate. So I'll click down this See Activities, you'll see here, introduction, review and practice, reteach, remediate. And that's all wonderful because this is going to update with additional progress monitoring information. So as your students make progress along those paths, those graphs, you'll be able to click update recommendations, progress or not actually, click update recommendations and your groups will filter out with that new data. Then when we click on the Students tab, you can see individual student information about students who are well below the benchmark like Samir here, or even like Anna at the benchmark. mCLASS will let you know what they can do, what they need to work on. This is a great piece for teachers as they're getting to know their students or preparing for conferences, report cards. All of it is here in plain English to let us know those areas to focus on, as well as observed patterns and activities, again, to support those students' observed patterns. And then by popular demand, we have an all activities tab. So access to all of the activities in mCLASS instruction in that tab right here. And it's sorted by basic early literacy skill. So if you have, let's say, some upper grade teachers that may have students that have skill area gaps in phonemic awareness or letter sounds, and that's not usually something that they teach in 4th or 5th grade, they still have access to all of these lessons so that they can support their students and work to close those gaps. The final piece here is the Home Connect letter. And that Home Connect letter is available beginning, middle, and end of the year after the benchmark. And you can download these in English or in Spanish, both. You can also just select and identify one at a time. You're able to download as a PDF. And it looks like this. Your Home Connect letter is in, as actually Jennifer mentioned this too, thank you, in caretaker family friendly terms. It gives you the wording, how to explain why we are assessing these students to their families. What do these assessments mean? What were the scores? And where do they fall on that performance level? Additionally, there's a second page to these activities that provides second page to this Home Connect letter that provides activities for parents, caretakers, family members to do with their students to help support their early literacy skill development. Sometimes we're not even sure where to start. And then there's more activities linked at this Home Connect website, which is not password protected. So teachers often put it on their websites so that parents can access that and see these activities to support their students. It's also available with a click of a button to switch into Spanish. So it's a very nice resource. So that wraps up our mCLASS Home, but we did not leave out the leaders. And these reports, these leadership reports, are a little bit different than what you just saw. The reports that we looked at here are available for teachers, but you do have the ability to toggle between different classes if you would like to look class by class. But your leadership reports give you the ability to look at different levels of data. So if you want to look at district level, school, grade, class, you can select and choose which reports you want to look at and by which level. So on the left here are score reports, while on the right are fidelity reports for leaders to see progress of benchmark completion during the benchmark windows, and then monitor the rate and the % of students that are being checked in with progress monitoring. Additionally, you can download a raw CSV file of your benchmarking and progress monitoring data so that you have access to that. You could upload it to your own system if you need to. The reports for leaders are flexible, so you can generate this data for different time periods. Over years, you can filter down to a plethora of filters that we see showcased on the screen here. All the reports in the Reporting and Analysis Suite are flexible. They allow instructional leaders to customize the data to view what's just right to help inform decisions. This is also they also have the ability to customize these reports too. So we offer up to 10 custom categories, which can be defined by the district. So it really makes it user-friendly. And when we share out some resources in just a moment, one of them will include our reporting guide. So you can dig into each of these reports that I just covered and learn more about them. It'll include information from the classroom reports, as well as the leader level reports, that dyslexia screening and risk indicator. All of that will be included right there. So before I wrap up here, and we can look at any questions if we have them, when we look at the big picture here, we have a full solution in English, a high quality science of reading based cycle of assessment with mCLASS, instruction with mCLASS, and then practice with Boost Reading. In Spanish, we've delivered mCLASS Lectura for assessment, Amplify Caminos for instruction, and now we have a personalized practice, which is an essential part of this suite. Like mCLASS Lectura and Caminos, Boost Lectura can stand alone as a Spanish literacy personalized practice. So together with Boost Reading, we have that biliteracy solution. So just like Boost Reading works together with mCLASS and mCLASS, Boost Lectura will now work together with mCLASS Lectura and Caminos and its partner in Boost Reading in English. So we don't want to leave you hanging though. We do offer a variety of levels of support, including instant help with our chat, our call, or even our email feature. Everybody is very responsive. Instantly, we'll get back to you, especially in that chat feature. But we are here to help and to guide you in solving any or answering any questions that you may have. So if you want more information, we have it on the screen here. And now we can open it up to questions if you have any. And then I'll also share one more screen about our resources here. All right, and I'm just checking out the chat. All right, I don't think I missed anything. So David and Maureen, if you think there's anything else we need to add, otherwise we can thank everybody for their time and for being here with us today, and feel free to reach out. Let's go this way. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or would like more information about that transition from DDS to mCLASS.